Libel in spiritual court, if upon a libel in the ecclesiastical manner the defendant made a surmise to have a prohibition, the libel is used in ecclesiastical proceedings. Okay, this is Jacob A. New Law Dictionary. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. A libel has been defined to be the plaintiff's petition or allegation made and exhibited in judicial process with some solemnity of law. It is also said to be a short and well-ordered writing, setting forth in a clear manner, as well to the judge as the defendant, the plaintiff's or accuser's intention and judgment. It is written statement by a plaintiff of his cause of action and of the relief he seeks to obtain in the suit. And that's cited from Law's Ecclesiastical Law. And so this is all coming from the Vatican. And order takers. Mark Passio is a former Satanist priest who has some YouTube videos about natural law. They're great videos. I encourage everybody to watch them. All of the atrocities, one of the things he says is all of the atrocities in the histories were committed by order takers. Some of the pillars of Satanism are forms of mind control, or survival is the highest law of Satanism. Moral relativism, no such thing as right or wrong, we just make it up. And that's exactly what goes on with these satanic churches that have this 501c3 status. They just make it up as they go along, and they stay off of certain topics. Social Darwinism, certain classes of people think they're most fit to rule, postulates the survival of the most socially ruthless. Ultimate responsibility is self-preservation. Eugenics, the elite determines who lives and dies. Order followers, responsible for all the atrocities in history, just follow orders without thinking about whether it's a lawful order or not. They're willing slaves. Moral relativism, 2/3 of the people believe in moral relativism. In Mark's video, he talks about how he went and talked to his own grandmother, and he pointed out that the pillars of Satanism, and he says, "You're a Satanist," and she says, "Yeah, I guess I am." And so I'll tell you, if somebody said that to me, I'd do a serious reevaluation of my what I was thinking and doing. Anyways, truth is relative. Under moral relativism, truth is relative. It's what we make up today. An order taker, someone who is too stupid to know when they're receiving an unlawful command or not, cannot think for themselves, but needs someone to tell them what to do, as described by Mark Passio in his YouTube videos on natural law. Mark Passio rightly says that all the atrocities in history were committed by order takers in his YouTube profile. And this is his YouTube profile, and I encourage everybody to go there because he's got some great stuff on there. World War II war crimes tribunals. All the Nazis claimed they were following orders, and they either suffered death by hanging or spent the rest of their life in jail. These are examples of order takers, and some of them are still hunted to this day. The My Lai massacre, this is the U.S. did in Vietnam, and those soldiers were convicted of murder. And the Amistad's a case before the Civil War, where there's a ship. Go to the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a U.S. versus Amistad. And what happened was there was a slave ship that the slaves took over the ship, and they killed all of their captors except for one. And they said, take us back to Africa, because they didn't know how to sail, how to navigate in the water, in the ocean. And so the guy that they told him they didn't kill, he went and sailed in circles off the coast of Virginia. And what he did was he sailed in circles. Yeah, right. Anyway, so until the U.S. Navy found him, and then the U.S. Navy went and they took him back to and put him on trial. And the end result was there was two arguments. The first argument is that they're a slave, they're property, they're no different than a dog or a cat, and they can't be convicted of murder. And they said otherwise they're free men and they have every right to do what they did. And it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the government tried to manipulate it as much as they could. And the end result was that the U.S. Supreme Court said they're free men and they have every right to do what they did, and sent them back to Africa. These judicial whores intend that they're brain-dead, idiot, low-intelligence, hired thugs assault people and kidnap people and falsely imprison people because it is so good for business. If anyone has any doubt about that, check out Jordan versus City of New London, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, case number 99-9188. And that Jordan was a guy that had a master's degree and wanted to get a job with the New London Police Department, and they wouldn't hire him because he scored too high in the test. And so, and the U.S. Court of Appeals basically said, well, it's not a good idea, but they have that right. And so, obviously, they intend that these cities and the TSA NSA pigs and the Homeland Security pigs hire brain-dead idiots so they can go out and assault people and kidnap people and falsely imprison people, which is exactly what they do every day. The only way we'll ever get any real justice is to demand our own common law jury of our peers, and we need to know what that is. This is part of my Fire the Whores campaign. A true common law jury does not take instructions from the judge. A true common law jury calls the witnesses, questions the witnesses, determines the law and the facts in the matter, and they can ignore any statute or law. That's called jury nullification. Look it up. A true common law jury will pronounce sentence, if any. A true common law jury is not subject to appeal. Do you want to place your future in the hands of a United Nations whore that wants to sit on a bench and play stupid? That's exactly what they do. Do you want to put your future, your wife and children in the hands of one of these judicial whores that complete immunity no matter what? Because if you sue one of them, you have to get one of their whore buddies to do it. Sure, some of them want to do justice, but are you going to take the chance that you got a good one? Do you want to place your future in the hands of a whore that's bought and paid for by these crown pigs? Do you want to place yourself in the hands of a whore who is intent on converting you into a ward of the court, which is an imbecile? Do you want to consider yourself Christian? Do you try to follow the golden rule? Do you treat others the way you want to be treated? Do you think you'll get any sympathy from God on Judgment Day when you have not done everything you can to put a stop to these satanic judicial whores selling their justice? Karma is the universal principle of what goes around comes around. If we knowingly allow these judicial whores to victimize tens of thousands of people in the name of their satanic religious ceremonies, don't you think that will be held accountable? Don't you think it will come back around at us? Don't you think it's already coming back around at us every day when they sell their justice in their de facto so-called courts, when their revenue officers masquerading as police officers unlawfully arrest us for commercial crimes like speeding, when they deny us due process based on one of their fictitious quasi-contracts, when they populate their prisons with victimless crimes. All judges are foreign agents of the Vatican. See the presentation on bar members. This idea of separation of church and state is really about taking Christianity out of the government, displacing it with satanic Roman civil law from the Vatican. All so-called court cases are actually satanic religious ceremony by priests of Baal. Under the guise of separation church and state, they have taken the Lord's Prayer out of the schools, taken Christian symbols out of the courts, taken Christian symbols out of the schools. They've converted our Christian government into satanic government. It's all been done by court rulings from priests of Baals masquerading as judges. At common law, there's no prisons. That's why common law is so severe. All prisons are commercial. Most of the people in prison are there for victimless crimes. We need to fire the whores and end the tyranny of these de facto United Nations courts and their Vatican judicial whores selling their justice. Our court is only a jury of our peers, and they are all being denied so these judicial whores can populate their prisons and collect their royalties. As for me, my conscience is clear. I've never breached the peace. There was no crime. I have never committed a crime. I'm completely innocent of these charges. This kangaroo court and these Canada border pigs and their judicial whores selling their justice. They do not want a common law jury to hear it. That's why they held their de facto kangaroo court and issued their void judgment. And they're so adamant about denying due process. Tillman, the clerk, masquerading as a judge under the directions of his handler Rook, the clerk, masquerading as a judge, says that Magna Carta is out of date and doesn't apply anymore. Tyrants have been saying that Magna Carta is out of date for centuries. It's the same people that precipitated the War of Independence, the same people that precipitated the Glorious Revolution, and within 100 years after the Magna Carta, they were back at it again. And so this just keeps going back around, and it's because we, the people, were asleep at the wheel. Due process of law. What is due process may be ascertained by an examination of those settled usages and modes of proceedings existing in the common and statute law of England before the immigration of our ancestors. The expression due process of law and law of the land have the same meaning. The law intended by the Constitution is the common law that had come down to us from our forefathers as it existed and was understood and administered when that instrument was framed and adopted. And so it is manifest it was not left to the legislative power to enact any process which might be devised. The due process article is a restraint on the legislative as well as on the executive and judicial powers of government, and cannot be so construed as to leave Congress free to make any due process of law by its mere will. In other words, common law is the law of the land, and they can't legislate it away. They cannot, no judicial whore can say it doesn't apply. It means absolutely nothing, and that's the U.S. Supreme Court. It is my opinion that well over 90%, probably 99% of the poor are the people who work as peace officers, are honest, hard-working people who are very patriotic and take their oaths of office very seriously. Many of them have not been properly trained. Many of them are under pressure to generate revenue, and the burden's on us to educate them since their bosses are absolutely not doing it. They're pig bosses. What can we do? We can lay a proper foundation so they cannot claim ignorance. We can demand a common law court. And their biggest, most powerful weapon is plausible deniability because of our own ignorance. So we need to take away their plausible deniability because their judicial whores will give them immunity for a one-time get-out-of-jail-free card, even if we have our arguments right, if we don't take away their plausible deniability. That's what the whores on the Supreme Court did. Know that a true common law court is, so that you can tell if they really give you a common law court. Complain to the Judicial Council, which is really a council of whores, and make sure you bring up the right issues. Complain to politicians. We need to work together to fire these Vatican Jesuit whores selling their justice. Make YouTube videos and circulate them far and wide. Send YouTube videos to me. I'll circulate them. Realize it is never over until you say it's over. Never, ever, ever give up. What can we do? We can always remember that we, the people, are the ones who are really in control, not a gang of Vatican judicial whores selling their justice, not their hired thugs, not the Canada border pigs, and even a peace officer can do nothing that we ourselves cannot do. What can we do? We can refuse to participate in their de facto system. We can educate ourselves about what common law jury is and what the law of the land is. We can educate ourselves so we know when our rights are being violated. We can educate our public servants because many of them do not know any more than we do. We can educate other people by circulating this video and any other way possible. We can demand a common law jury of our peers. We can work with our friends and neighbors to reestablish our common law juries and our common law lawful de jure courts. We can work with our friends and neighbors to get the United Nations out of America and Canada and anywhere that wants to be free. The United Nations is owned and operated by the bankster thieves and their Vatican handlers. Upcoming events, color of law, fire the United Nations judicial whores in Texas, City of Fort Worth pigs, City of Grand Prairie pigs, how to do the habeas corpus, citizenship, and fire the United Nations judicial whores in America. Copies of these videos can be found at my group, Yahoo copies of these documents at Administrating-Your-Public-Servants. I've also got my YouTube profile is Sovereign Living, and send me an email and you know, I'll send you stuff from there too, or send you links to the YouTube videos. But it's my philosophy that we got ourselves into this, we need to get ourselves out. And so if anybody wants some help, I got to tell you that I'm gonna send you to my group, and I'm gonna tell you to watch some videos and to educate yourself. And after you've done all of that, then if you have some intelligent questions, then I'll entertain them. But you need to do your homework. You need to educate yourself. You got yourself into this. You need to get yourself out. And other than that, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, and I hope you got something out of it. And keep watching, because I'm coming up with more. Have a nice day.